Hello, welcome to the first event of 2022, our popular goal setting workshop, second annual, with our lovely partners, the Light Leaks. If you all remember last year, if you were here last year, we managed to do this during an insurrection. So just get it out all up front. We're not having any insurrections this year during our goal
Yes.
setting workshop. We're
Number
focused
one
on the
goal
goals.
for 2022, no
Zero,
insurrections
zero
during
insurrections.
our event specifically. Any other time,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about it. We'll table it. I am Megan Ross. I am the head of creator success at Seed&Spark, and I'm joined by the lovely Bree Castellini, who is our film community manager at Seed&Spark. And we're also honored to have our partner join us again, the Light Leaks, and we have Shamira Brown, who will share a little bit more about her role at the Light Leaks and what they do.
Shamira.
Hi, I'm Shamira. I'm based out in New York City, and I'm the design lead and digital strategist at the Light Leaks. So the Light Leaks is a space that provides support and empowers female and non-binary filmmakers through community-full opportunities to connect with one another and learn skills. And the overall mission is to create a more equitable media space. And we have a newsletter. We do a monthly what we're watching to show different films that everyone can watch, and it's just a great community overall just to connect with one another.
Yeah, we love them.
All over the country too. Like
Yes.
You can join from anywhere, which is great.
Yes.
Cool. Well, Bree is going to take us through our goal setting workshop, and then Shamira and I are going to weigh in. We'll be going through our responses. We'll be pulling comments from y'all, any goals you want to share, any tips you have for tracking your goals, fire away in the comments, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, we will be doing our goals along with y'all. So please continue sharing them. I've seen a handful already coming through. Got some great pun game from Andy Poland. Very excited for this. So we'll pull your guys' onto screen as they become relevant. But for now, let's go through it. Let's set goals together. We've got a couple of different structures for goal setting that may work for you, may not work for you. That's why we have a good combination of the few. So some of them are going to be more just about ideation and brainstorming. Some of them are going to be about testing what you brainstorm to make sure it's actually a goal and not just like a weird like wish thing. And in any case, we'll be here doing it with you. So let's be vulnerable, positive, and optimistic together, everybody, and get started with mind mapping. So if you are not familiar with mind mapping is basically a lot of circles on a page, but more smartly described as a hierarchical information display that encourages free association. So mind mapping is meant to be kind of like free writing, but with like bubbles, where you kind of start in the center with the thing you want to brainstorm about. In this case, your 2022 goals and aspirations, and branch out from there to start to essentially free associate what things you might want to focus on this year. Don't hold back. Anything that comes to mind, put it on the map. That doesn't mean that you're going to be absolutely focused on all of this stuff in the year, but it's helpful to know sort of where your brain naturally takes you so that you can start prioritizing from there rather than holding yourself back and saying, no, I can do one thing this year and that's it. And don't worry about revising either. We're going to hone and prioritize these things a little bit later. But first, just let your mind free. And as a reminder, we do have a goal setting workbook where you can either do this in digital form, you can print it out. Y'all should have gotten a link to that earlier. But if you didn't, I see that Danny has put it in the comments. Looking for the workbook. Hell yeah, so good. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Danny. So if you want to follow along with us with like our free little download, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'm doing it in my notebook. So feel free to do that as well. So let's start by mind mapping. So obviously you can start in the center with anything. I just put 2022. I think that's probably what most of you will be doing, but who knows? Maybe you want to mind map on something else. People also do this a lot for coming up with new script ideas. So, it's a very versatile opportunity. But the first place we're going to start is the first place you should always start when starting new goals for the year, which is your health. Because no matter how much workaholics we all are, if you don't fill your cup first, as Megan so smartly put it last year, then you're not going to have anything to pour into any of your other cups throughout the year, both for your professional endeavors, for your personal endeavors, and beyond. So what, Shamira and Megan, are some of your personal health goals or thoughts for the next year, both in mental and physical health?
So going off that filling your cup bit, because I'm really great at sharing advice in this area, but not applying it. I had a line in my recent script where I said, ignoring my self-care is my self-care. And my friend was like, that's you. That's not a dialogue line. That is you. So as simple as prioritize self-care under personal health. And so that's mental and physical health, continuing to go to therapy, bumping it up to weekly because it's that kind of year, and trying to incorporate meditation. I always say that that's one that falls off, but it is like a nice thing when I do it. So why don't I do more nice things for myself? And continuing to work out at least 5 times a week, because boy, do I need those endorphins. It's like when I'm angry, getting it out, or just like, it's just a nice outlet, especially when I can't go anywhere.
Do you have like a meditation app that you use, Megan, that you can recommend?
I actually have the Peloton subscription, so I'm sorry, I'm one of those Peloton heads. And they have really great options, but I know Calm has worked really well for some people. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of free meditation resources out there.
Yeah, I was
Like
gonna say Oak is one that I have, and I don't love meditation, but they also have good like sleep sounds that are free, and a handful of
yeah,
free meditation kind of walkthroughs and breathing exercises. So that's a plug if that's something y'all are looking into.
yeah. There's one, Tara Brach, Brach. She has a podcast and that's free. And she does like a weekly meditation. That's also really nice. She has like a very calming voice. I'm
Cool.
trying
It
to
looks,
like get into
yeah,
that as a
yeah.
person.
It looks like Gnome Finello recommends Headspace, and Ebony likes Liberate app. So thanks for those of you in the comments for suggesting things. Shamira, what about you? What are some mental or physical health goals that you are thinking about this year?
I think one of my main goals is practicing gratitude and is learning to like, I guess like appreciate the more little things that goes on in my life, and is like was looking things not necessarily at the bigger picture, but the little things that kind of make the world really great. Like even like the sun is out, or like
Mhm.
oh it's raining, find some beauty into every little thing. And also I guess meditation is another one, and really take some time to unwind, because I think sometimes after work I still think about work. I'm like, oh, what I'm
Mhm.
doing the next day, but actually taking time to sit back and think about other things, like find like I guess like to unclog my mind of all the things that kind of like feeling that. And then another one is to I guess like to work out a lot more, like going to like doing more things at home, or like find different things to keep myself very active. So those are like a few of my goals for 2022.
That's awesome. Yeah. So speaking of what you were just talking about, Shamira, so when we did this last year, I found it's the same notebook. I found my mind map from last year. And one of the things I wanted to do last year was cultivate 2 non-monetizable hobbies, because
Yeah.
as us ladies in the art world know, we're, constantly doing something for fun and then saying, but could I use this for my career? And
Mhm.
we can. Should we? No. And I actually did that last year. I got into painting again, and some of my paintings you'll see in the background, like my little ghost, and also gardening. And I have continued doing both. I've got an overflowing windowsill of plants. My fiance got me an arrow garden for this New Year's. So I can say from personal experience, having hobbies that have nothing to do with your career was such a wonderful way to start to like separate my work time with my lifetime. So highly recommend that to everyone. And I love that gratitude, instead of only focusing on like, oh, this is bad today, also trying to take a moment to smell the roses, as it were. If something nice is happening, actually take a second and acknowledge, hey, something nice is happening. Hey,
Mhm.
it's a really nice day today. And maybe other things are going on, but I want to make sure that I take the time to acknowledge something nice is happening. I love that. So moving on from health, both both physical and mental, let's talk about relationships, because relationships are really important. And I think something that we often all forget to prioritize in terms of goals. Goals tend to be very, me, which is important. Obviously, self-care is important, but so are the relationships in your life that you want to cultivate. So, family, friends, romantic, and beyond that. What are y'all's personal relationship goals this year?
So I think last year I said something about like trying to spend more time on like the solid relationships versus like I am a person who has a lot of acquaintances and fair weather friends is literally what my pilot is about. And I don't spend enough time on like the very close relationships that I want to foster, especially as I get into my, later 30s. So I more one-on-one time with friends. Like I feel like there's a lot of like small group hangs and there's certain people in my friend group that I don't get to like really dive deep on what's going on with them. And then on the romantic side, so I recently got engaged. Feel so weird about it. I'm like, how am I a person who's engaged now? But we had this goal years ago and we're trying to incorporate it again because our schedules are so busy for each one of us to plan a monthly date. So that one person gets to do the planning and the other person gets to sit back for that date. I'm a producer, so like I want to plan all the things. And then we get to kind of share and incorporate those activities. Bree, you inspired me. My personal development is all like based on your activity sharing it last year because like I realized I don't do enough outside of like watch TV and movies and like eat
which is
and
work,
drink.
kind of.
Yeah. So it's like like I want to be able to like be like go out for I don't know. I'm not gonna say hike. I'll say walk, but like do something outside of the normal day to day. And yeah, within those dates, it could be like an activity, a ceramics class. And then on the family side, these are contradicting, but I said more check-ins and more boundaries. I'm really bad at like I live far away from my family. I'm bad at checking in and it goes both ways. But everyone's really busy, but I want to be better about like those casual phone calls, but also as I'm starting to plan a wedding, setting those boundaries, those healthy boundaries.
I love that. Shamira, what about you?
I guess like developing healthier communications across the board. I guess mainly I know it's with it's like a goal between my boyfriend and I is to focus on listening versus actually hearing and actually like waiting to respond. Because I think sometimes like, oh, this says X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I will respond right after instead of actually trying to look at things more empathetically and understanding where they're coming from versus like, oh no, I don't like what you did. And like really having those conversations and really being open. And also another goal, I guess, for family is creating more family traditions or like creating like different things we could do because we all live in totally different places and just creating like maybe doing virtual calls or doing game nights and really own into being more of a family, being a little bit more connected and really creating those memories that we could have on forever. So yes.
I love that. That your reminder of like traditions is really fun because that's something that I started doing last year with my partner. We got engaged last year. We're getting married this year, and we've started to be really more conscious about like what are the things that we want to keep doing. Like we're right in the beginning of our official relationship, even though we've been together for a decade.
Yeah.
And so like for Christmas, one thing we like to do is every year, or we're trying to do it every year, having a little like Christmas party with close friends, making salt dough ornaments, which are kind of ephemeral because they don't last forever, but like it allows us to be creative with each other, with our friends, to create some nice little ornaments for our tree. And it's just like a nice opportunity to craft with friends and with each other at the end of each year and be creative. And so we really like doing that more often. Shout out to Kim Hoyos, founder of the Light Leaks, who's in the comments right now and who was at my ornament party this year. So Kim, thanks for being part of my new yearly tradition. And I really quickly just want to shout out some things people have been sharing. There's been some really fun stuff and great goals that people are mentioning. Stephanie talking about getting outside more, going to gardens and parks that they know and enjoy. There was someone, Mia mentioned that they like long walks on the beach, which is great. It doesn't matter if it's cliche, if it brings you joy. Bring yourself joy, Mia. And I really love this from Elena, being kinder to my husband. We do a lot for each other, but sometimes we forget to be kind. That's a lesson that I had to learn a couple of years ago in all of my relationships. I come from not a tough love family, but a family who loves a little rough. and is a little sarcastic and mean to each other, but like that's how we love each
Relatable.
other. Yeah, I
Relatable.
thought Megan might find that relatable. And I've discovered in my adulthood that not every family is like that. And some people think that you're being a huge jerk when really you're trying to tell them, I love and care about you deeply. But what you're saying is maybe not exactly those words. So I love that shout out. And I think that's so important that it's not just about acts of service, it's also about remembering to be kind and don't just let sarcasm be your primary mode of communication to people who really matter to you. So I love that. Okay, moving on to the next section of our ideal life year, month, week, day. Personal development. So this is importantly still not career. I know all you career-minded folks are like, but when am I going to tell you that I'm going to write 5 pilots this year? In a second. Hold your horses. But first, we got to talk about personal development. We kind of talked about this already, but these are things like hobbies that you want to develop, non-work education, things you just want to learn and get better at for your own sake and not necessarily for the sake of your burgeoning, wonderful careers that I'm sure all of you and all of us up here are going to be having. So even though we've kind of talked about this a bit, Megan and Shamira, any personal development goals that you want to share with us this year?
Yeah, so I got really bad at reading books over the last couple years during the pandemic. I think it's mostly because I would read the most when I traveled and
Mm-hmm.
when I got to the place I was traveling to. So my goal is to finish this like pile of books that I've just been like I bought a lot of books but haven't read them, and do that before I buy new books. Like if I want a new book, I got to finish a book. And then in the hobby space, Bree, you inspired me doing something like kind of physical. I had this Instagram live series where I would do an activity at a like below average, mediocre level. And so I bought a lot of crafts, but then never revisited them. And so I really think as a stress reliever too, I need to get back into like those hands-on sort of crafting because it's like even though I'm not good at it, it's really nice to just like free paint or just do something that's not meant to be like sold on Etsy or something, like those things that are good for you and not meant to be a true side hustle. And
100%.
yeah, so and then in the non-work education, I really like listening to podcasts and reading newsletters that have nothing to do with my career. So and just like learning weird stuff. I want to be a better bar trivia team member in 2022.
Something we should all aspire to be. You just reminded me of something, Megan. So I'm going to be grabbing something while Shamira tells us about her professional development goals.
So one of the hobby I really want to get into is punch needling. Like I always wanted to create my own rug.
Needling. Oh, for rugs. Okay.
Yes, I
That's
always
cool.
wanted to create my own rug. Like that's like one of my major goals. Also another thing is like getting my driver's license. I've been putting it off for so long, and I'm like, I just need to do it. And like I have all the things to do it, but actually like going ahead and actually achieving that goal. And then for non-work education, I think being a little bit more financial literate, and learning more about stocks and how to actually personal budget, like all like learning more about finances and being a little bit more, I guess, better financially in 2022.
That's awesome. I love that. And I just want to shout out Nika, who mentioned Nika, sorry, in the chat, who said that one of their non-work education ideas is to take a feminism and social justice course, which is awesome. I was actually like, there was a half second at the end of 2021 where I was like, should I go to grad school for gender studies? Because I never took any of those classes in college, and I feel like I would really benefit from more academic understanding of social justice. But maybe I'll just take one class like Nika. The reason I left camera briefly is because Megan, as you were talking about like hands-on crafting, so we all know that I've gotten into painting recently, but over the holidays, my mom taught me how to embroider. So this is my first embroidery towel with a little snowman, 2 little snowmen. It's so just like calming and you really have to focus. And I really enjoyed this because now I have a towel for my kitchen, but it's cute and has snowmen on it. So I would like to do more embroidery to add to my artistic repertoire. And also, as an update to last year I mentioned that one of my goals for reading, because Megan, same thing, I also had fallen out of the pattern of reading, is last year I said one of my goals was going to be to start every day with reading. And I did that. Literally, there was not a single day in 2021 that I did not start by at least reading a couple of pages of a book, either physically or usually on my phone or computer. And it was incredible. I woke up happier. I was excited to get up because I wanted to read like the next bits. And when I was like really invested in a book, I would read for a little bit longer, which was a much nicer way of starting my day than Twitter. And I read so many more books and explored so many new things that I never thought I would. So highly recommend, especially if you need to like get up to momentum, just having a page or two in the morning on the hard days, and more than that on the days that reading comes easier, is a really easy way to get your momentum back up. So I definitely highly recommend that. Okay. And then the final pieces of your mind map. I know we spent a lot of time on mind mapping, but this is where the brainstorming situation comes into play, everybody. So this is where you can start filling in those financial goals of yours. If you have savings goals and things like that, career and jobs, this is where you can put, I'm going to write 5 pilots this year, everyone, as well as any activism or public service concepts, ideas, resolutions that you want to make as well. Anything that y'all want to share from these final categories?
Well, agreeing with what Shamira said about getting more financially literate, because I am like very clueless in that department. I've had rollover 401k as a goal like for years. So definitely want to get like have a plan in place. I did my budget on New Year's Day, and I know I'm gonna have to rework that on like a monthly basis as things move along, especially with wedding planning. But it feels empowering once you do get like your debt under control or have a savings plan, because that's not something I had during my 20s. It's not something I knew how to do. And so I'm trying to set better habits, as I get older and want to not work until I'm 110 years old or whatever bot I look like at that age.
Shamira, what about you? Any of these final categories you want to share about?
I guess for career and jobs, I guess setting boundaries between myself and my computer. I guess like not staying up or staying work to like 9, 10 o'clock at night where it's like, no, it can wait to tomorrow instead of like making sure everything is done in one day. Just like take a break and learning to step away from your computer and like breathe. And I guess another thing for financial is I guess like I think it's like very specific, but not eating out and or Uber Eats every chance I can get because I think it goes to personal development as well as like starting to cook more and really like be a little bit more mindful of how much I'm spending on little things and really just creating better plans in general.
That's great. Yeah, something my partner and I had that issue too, Shamira, where we were spending so much money eating out, mostly because we were living in New York still and we're very depressed. But we've moved since then. And something that we found that was very helpful for both health reasons and financial health reasons is when we go grocery shopping once a week, or twice a, 2 times, however often we're going grocery shopping. We don't go grocery shopping just to replace things we know we need. We actually sit down and make our meal plan for the week. So what are we cooking on Monday? What are we cooking on Tuesday? And we make our list based on that and have that posted somewhere. We've got a little whiteboard next to our door where we put ours. And so that way you're only buying food like for a specific purpose. You have a plan in order. So you are knowing ahead of time, oh, Wednesday, I'm going to make this thing. So I got to make sure to defrost the chicken. And it kind of keeps you honest. And then even if you do have to push back by one day, you still have all the ingredients for that meal. That just means you don't have to go shopping for a little bit longer. So that's helped us a lot in accountability and making sure that food's not going bad in our fridge because like we have a specific day that we're cooking this. We got the materials. We are cooking this day. And it's been very helpful. So maybe that will be helpful to you and other people. I also just want to call out Letitia, who's getting back into skateboarding again, which is very cool. So please be sure to send us some like of your cool TikToks next to pop punk music, which I assume is the natural progression of you getting into skateboarding, which I love for you. That's going to be very cool. I also wanted to share Georgia Testa for my activism. I just funded a nonprofit to work both in hospitals and schools, bringing music and theater to kids and teens in order to help them accept and love themselves more. That's awesome. So I can't wait to hear more about that, Georgia. I think that's lovely. So very, very cool. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so now that we've started brainstorming all of the different areas of our life that we might have goals to achieve in, we got to do the next step, which is actually start circling some of those circles that you want to actually focus on this year, or even just for this workshop. So pick, let's be reasonable, pick one or two things in every, category of the things that, like, these are the most important things to me. These are, if I can't do anything else this year, I definitely want to make sure I accomplish these. This is where we're starting to pare down all that free association and thinking. Don't have to focus on absolutely everything. Also think about areas that you're already doing well in versus areas where you can improve in, which also may change what you want to prioritize. Definitely don't ignore the mental health area. Like, I have a lot of career goals this year, so I guess mental health will wait. None of that, friends. None of that. That's why we talked about that first. And remember that your goals might look different from other years. They might seem a little bit more, slanted towards the like lifestyle balance versus the like achievement, achievement, achievement. And that's also okay, because sometimes, I'm gonna let you in on a secret, focusing on personal growth and boundaries actually helps you achieve even more. So that's the next stage. So we're not really going to go through this section because we've already been talking about this one a lot, but that's how you use your mind map, is you let yourself free associate all the random little things that come to mind in all of these sections. And then once you're done, once you've filled out your big map, start circling the things that you're like, ooh, that's actually really important to do, and go from there. So once you've circled a couple of things, now we can move on. First we have to move on to a meme. It's a year-old meme, but it still holds true. Now we're going to do stop, start, continue. So this is a exercise that will help you define your goals a little bit more, and maybe put them in perspective of like what you're actually trying to do. Because I think a lot of times when we make goals, we make them with the idea of like, be better, something very vague, but like there's no tangible way to be better, get healthier. So this is trying to make things a little bit more tangible. This is an exercise I used to do at one of my old companies when we did year-end reviews. So taking it one priority at a time of the things that you just circled from your list. Start means things you want to begin doing in service of that goal. So if you want to set better boundaries between work and life, maybe you want to start a hobby that you do after work. So like as soon as 6 p.m. hits, I'm going to spend an hour reading, or whatever that is. That's something that you want to start doing. Stop is what you want to finish doing, things that you're currently doing that you don't want to do anymore, that are not furthering your goal. So Shamira mentioned, I'm going to stop working until 9 p.m. every day for things that could, be done the next day. So perhaps moving into the start is like, make a list of all the things that I still need to accomplish so that I'm not anxious about forgetting them. And I know it will be there waiting for me on day 2. And then continue things are continuing things that are going pretty well already that you want to stay the course on. So like, I know for me, in terms of my setting better boundaries, I really liked reading for the first thing every single day. So I've continued doing that into 2022. It's only been 5 days of it, but still, I've still continued starting my day with reading because it was a really lovely way to do that. And I read more and I enjoy it. I'm going to maybe start reading to end my day instead of being on TikTok and then going to bed and only hearing TikTok sounds for the entirety of my evening. That's maybe not great. So I'm going to stop doing that and maybe start reading at the end of my day. But this is a helpful structure of like just starting to really put in perspective, what does it mean to have this goal? It's not just set boundaries. What does that mean? What are you going to start do? What are you going to start doing to set better boundaries? What are you going to stop doing to set better boundaries? And what are you already doing pretty well at? So that's what start, stop, continue is all about. I'll throw it to you guys if you have anything here that springs out at you. Otherwise, I'm going to move on.
Yeah, I just what I like to do is put the goal on the top and then say start, stop, continue, so that I know that the start, stop, continue ladders up to that stated goal, and then
Love
it makes
that.
it easier to organize and know like the goal is basically like that's your tagline, your theme for that section of start, stop, continue.
That's great. And I think our workbook is organized that way. So y'all get that workbook if you're not already in there. And it looks like Alicia is on your level. That's what they just did, Megan. So heck yeah. All right. So now the next structure is honing your goals. So we've brainstormed them, we've defined them a little bit better. Now it's time to actually make sure that the goals that you're making are possible for you to follow and you have thought about all elements of it. So SMART is an acronym. The first is specific. So you basically take one of your goals, whatever one of your goals is, and put it through this rubric. SMART is essentially a rubric for determining if your goals are plausible and, thought out as they should be. So specific is why this goal and not another? Who is involved in your success? What are the variables in achieving this goal? Basically, don't just say, I want to be healthier. Specifically, what does that mean? Healthier in activity, healthier in food, both. What are the things you want to be healthier at? Don't just say be healthy. So that's get specific. The next is this goal measurable. What is the success metric? How will you or others be able to tell that the goal has been completed? How can you get to the end of 2022 and say, yes, I set better boundaries this year? What are perhaps the milestones or benchmarks along the way? How can you measure whether or not your boundary setting has been successful or not? So that's the next thing, because if it's not measurable, then what is it, y'all? How can we know if you successfully did it or not? Next is attainable. This is that be realistic, y'all. Is this goal realistic based on your existing resources in time, in money, in energy, in location? Like, I would love to make $5 million this year, but is that attainable? Is that realistic? Absolutely not. Or is it? So maybe chill out a little bit and make sure that this is something that you can actually attain so that you don't get to the end of the year and say, man, I'm such a failure. And it's like, well, yeah, you were a failure at achieving Jeff Bezos's goals, but you're not Jeff Bezos. Thank goodness for all of us. So relax. This is a note for me, maybe also for you guys. Relevant. Is this the first goal to achieve on your map or a future goal after achieving some closer ones? So something that a lot of certainly people like us, artists, do when they're setting goals is like, I want to get staffed on television. And it's like, okay, well, that's an aspiration that we have, perhaps, but that's not actually under your control because it may or may not be attainable, but you don't have any control over that. So that's not a very good goal. So relevant is, okay, well, I can't just decide I'm going to get staffed this year, although certainly I can put good vibes into the universe, but what are things that I can be doing to make it more likely that I will get staffed this year? Send out 5 queries to agents a month. That's relevant. That's an earlier goal in that chain. Write to new original pilots. Submit to all of the fellowships, things like that. That's a much more concrete, relevant goal that you actually have control over. And then finally, T, time bound. When would you, my thing is in the way, so I can't actually read that. When would you like this goal to be accomplished? What about milestones? So something that I also find helpful, especially when I'm trying to change like a big kind of behavior of myself, is to break it down into more manageable chunks and say like, by, the end of March, I want to have done this. By the end of July, I want to have done this. Sometimes those milestones change, but it's more helpful to think like, this is what I'm going to do this month versus this is the thing I'm going to accomplish all year. So find ways to give yourself some like time boundaries to make it a little bit easier to get from step to step. And Mia, very relatable. I think all of us struggle with A, but that's why it's important to take your goals through these rubrics, because what we don't want is for you to feel like a failure at the end of the year, because it's probably not that you are a failure. It's that the way that you framed your goals set you up for failure. And that's not what we want to do here today. We want to set you up for success. So any smart goal thoughts that either of you have on your goals, things that are making you rethink things that like you definitely want to incorporate?
Go for it, Shamira.
One thing I learned when it comes to SMART goals is starting off the goal with some type of positive, like a positive adjective instead of like I want to effectively learn X, Y, and Z. It's like a really positive reinforcement in the beginning. So it really does create like I don't know. To me, it's like a really nice way to kind of like a little bit be kind to myself along the way of like achieving these goals.
I love that. So instead of like, I want to lose weight, it's I want to get more active and feel better in my body. because you're focusing on the positive instead. That's lovely. I love that. Megan, what about you?
Yeah, I love that it's like you're not changing yourself. You're finding a way to like grow or enhance on the current version of yourself. I the biggest thing for me that I learned last year from the goal setting is those relevant ones where it's like because it's very easy as like an aspiring TV writer to be like, I want to get staffed, I want to get repped. And so one of my goals in the career area was like having patience with myself and focusing on the things I do have control over, which is like my output, like the scripts I write, like the things that like it's something I'm creating and I'm responsible for finishing versus the things that the universe it has control over. So separating those two, not even really like it's nice to think like, oh, that's what I'm working towards, but don't even put it on your goal setting workshop. Just put it like do a separate like where do I see myself in 5 years or 10
Hmm.
years? But
Yeah,
the
your
goals
vision
should
board is
be
separate from this.
yeah, exactly. But the goals should be like things that you can control, you have control over because you'll just get bummed out over all the things you want but can't do right now in this moment.
Yeah,
It'll come.
feeling yeah, exactly. Like feeling, your lack of control is not ever going to help you get towards your goals. And I just liked this sum up from Danny in the chat, setting intentions rather than demanding results. I love that. Yeah, and that's definitely something that I'm focusing on this year is like being better with my energy because sometimes I get so structured and like these are the things I'm going to accomplish. I forget to what end am I accomplishing these things? You know what I mean? Where it's like, yes, I'm going to continue this podcast and grow it. And it's like, but do I want to keep doing that podcast? How is it helping me? Is the amount of time I'm spending on that thing worth what I'm getting out of it and what I hope to get out of it? It's like, sure, I hope that I go viral and get famous off of everything I do, every tweet that I send. But that doesn't mean that every tweet that I send is worth the energy I take to send it. So spending my energy more productively is definitely something I'm paying attention to this year. And some accountability and tracking tools for helping keep yourselves on track with all these goals that we're setting for ourselves. Things like a tracking calendar might be helpful. So there's a template for this in your workbook, but here's a little graphic of that. This is something that I made a couple of years ago for the kinds of goals that I had that were about, doing something a certain amount of times a week or every time a week and trying to make sure that like I was actually staying on track of that is I made like a little table of these are the, things that I wanted to do this year and the frequency and then would actually week by week check a box for if I was accomplishing that or not so that I could keep myself accountable, keep myself on track, things like that. Also, schedule check-in emails to yourself. It's super easy to schedule emails to yourself these days. So sometimes if I think that in the future I'll need some encouragement or some reminders, I will just schedule an email myself to go out when I know I need certain information or a reminder of something. And that's a way for me to kind of set it and forget it. Where if I'm feeling anxious right now, but no, I don't have time to do a thing, I'll send an email to myself for next week when I know I'll have a little bit more time. So now it feels like I've done something. I know it's written down, so I'm not going to forget about it. So I'm not like anxiously repeating it to myself so I don't forget. And I can kind of let it go until it becomes relevant again. That can often be very helpful. And I believe we will be sending you some. We might be sending you check-in emails. I don't remember, but there's stuff in your workbook that will explain it to you. Blocking off time in your calendar ahead of time. This is something I started doing last year that was very helpful because I realized I wasn't writing at all because I just didn't make time for it. So now I have dedicated space in my calendar that nobody can schedule things with me for because that is my writing time. That is all I'm doing during that time. And it helped a lot. And then also considering some accountability apps might be helpful. Things like Goal Streaks, Tick Tick, Clear. I use a mood tracker app called, what is it called? Hang on. And it's not necessarily a goal app, but it's called Daylio, Daylio. And you can use it for tracking habits, things like, getting active. And obviously, my mood tracking app is more about like tracking my mood. But it's also interesting to see like what kinds of days tend to be better days for me and what activities tend to be a part of those days is like days that I paint, days that I go out, days that I spend time with my family weirdly tend to be better than days that all I'm doing is working and like playing a video game. perhaps I should reflect on this. So that's some way that I've found it helpful to keep track of myself. But Danny has put the other links to the apps that we recommend if you want a digital accountability buddy in the chat. Any accountability or tracking tools that y'all have to keep yourself, honest without feeling overwhelmed and like you're lecturing yourself?
So this is my weakness for sure, because I like dug into our goal setting workshop from last year and I was like, woof, I did not open this for a year. And I think the thing is that to focus on is to do what works best for you. Like, don't force yourself to do Bree's version of tracking if that's not like you don't have the personality or the behaviors to allow it. But if you do, like, mirror that, use that. So someone said, Elena in the chat said, I'm really good at the personal stuff. I've achieved a lot in improving diet and exercise and nesting stuff. Organizations too. It's just accountability to myself and my career goals that I slip. So it's clear that there's some method of tracking that other area of goals that is working. So just like apply that to the accountability piece. Like I'm overwhelmed by this wedding planning thing, but I'm looking at, my friend was like, it's a short film. Produce it like a short film. I'm like tracking it the way I'd produce it, do pre-pro essentially. So, and I understand that, I can grasp that. So find a method that maybe is already kind of ingrained in other areas of your life that you're really good at, and then apply that to the area that you don't have as much accountability for. I had to join a writer's group because I was like, unless I'm in a class, I don't finish a script. So now I have other people that make that accountability for me.
Yeah, I just joined 2 writers groups. Hugely changed my output and also hugely changed my scripts. It's funny how having more than one person read your work makes it better. Wild. Anyways, Shamira, how are you thinking of keeping yourself accountable? What are things that have worked for you in the past? Things you hope to continue in the future?
A couple of things. Post-it notes always been my favorite go-to. Just like doing little kind reminders. Like sometimes I'll have one like in the bathroom mirror, like, okay, like don't forget X, Y, and Z. Like don't forget me notes of like just reminding me of like the goals I set for the year. And another thing I do every single year is I write myself a letter through Future Me, and I write all the things I wanted to do from like myself in 2021 or 2019, and really asking myself like, oh, did you do X, Y, and Z? It's kind of like having my younger version of myself talk to the new version of myself, and really just understanding like what my younger self will love to happen, and really like making sure she's happy and like just really like seeing another version of myself that my younger version of myself will love.
I love that. That's wonderful. Yeah, my much more self-congratulatory version of that is every year that I set my New Year's resolutions, I make it a public blog post on my website. Then midway through the year, I do a check-in. So I go through every single one of those goals, check in on how it's going, also make that public. I find I need to be doing something in public, otherwise I just won't do it. And then at the very end of the year, reflect on the year and go through step by step. Which ones did I accomplish? Which ones did I not? What are things I learned? Stuff like that. And I want to call out a couple of things from the chat really quickly. We love this from Bobo, adding in how to capitalize on work that they've already created, revisiting stuff that may have a second life. Absolutely love that for you. We all probably have a million ideas from, childhood to school and beyond that we worked on at one point and felt really passionate about and then kind of forgot about. Who knows what gems could be found in there. And then Clay had a question. Where do you find writers groups? Megan, where did you find your writers group?
So my writers group was a group that had already formed through, some of them were in a script class together. Some of them met at Austin Film Festival meetups. So they were already formed and had these like very diligent deadlines and processes. But I knew someone from that writers group from a volunteer opportunity where we taught like screenwriting to teenagers. And then she worked on my film set. So I think finding a writers group usually is like you find it when you're not looking. Like it's people who you work with in other capacities, and you realize like, oh, we're aligned in these ways, or like she has these strengths. I would love to have her weigh in on my projects. And so I was lucky that my partner had been in that group and more disciplined in screenwriting than I was. I was doing more like show stuff. stage show stuff. So then I gradually like took over his spot when he had to step back. So I got lucky in that sense where I joined an already really established group. But my biggest tip is if you are starting a group with like friends or whoever you find in your community, to really be fully committed. Don't like half-ass it. Don't do this thing where it's like sometimes we'll meet or sometimes we'll turn on in stuff. The most successful writers groups are ones that have like clear processes. Everyone's in agreement. Everyone's on the same page of like, you know, we're doing this because we want to pursue this as a career versus a hobby. And it's okay if you don't want to pursue it as a career. Then I think you should join a writers group that's more like, I'm doing this as a hobby and this is fun for me and an outlet. But I think just making sure everyone's on the same page in the level of commitment and having those guidelines in place.
Yeah, so the two writers groups that I am in now, one was similar to what you had, Megan, which is it was a pre-existing writers group that was looking to expand because I think they'd lost some members. I met one of the women in that group because she was in my writers group at the Stowe Story Labs last year that I got into last year. And so she and I really hit it off. And I mentioned to her that I was looking to have a more regular writers group again. And she was like, actually, I'm in one that is looking for new members. Do you want to join? So that was great. So lesson learned there, put your intentions out into the universe. You never know who already has a writers group that wants you in it. And then the other one is a new one. We haven't actually met officially yet, but I responded to a tweet on Twitter from a writer that I really liked who set up a bunch of us who were looking for a writers group. And so we met on Google Hangouts a couple of months ago and are going to have our first meeting in a couple of weeks. Also, shout out to a future article on Pipeline Artists, who's a partner of ours and has republished a couple of Seed&Spark workshops. But I have an article coming out at some point, maybe this month, maybe next month, about designing the perfect writers group for you. So I don't know, I guess follow me on Twitter and you'll see when that comes out. But I talk about a lot of the things Megan just mentioned, as well as like some structural things that I've seen in a variety of work groups that I've been in that might be useful in designing your perfect writers group. So cool. Also, shout out to Kim again in the comments. It's not a weakness to need help with accountability, especially in some if some areas of your life need extra help. 100%. So, oh, and then Abba has some comments on writers groups. Sometimes I reach out to friends and pass connects from my networks to see if there's interest. And once that's established, we schedule meetups, virtual and otherwise, to write. I love that. Question from Stephanie. What do y'all recommend for accountability group platforms that are not social media? Shamira or Megan, do you have any accountability group platforms? I was gonna say Slack. I'm like addicted to creating Slack like channels. I have like 5 Slack channels for different things, but I like Slack. I use it for work and it's an easy shift for me. And you can make the colors different. So when I'm in a different Slack group, I know, this color is when I'm talking to my friends. This color is when I'm at work. But I'm a crazy person, so maybe don't go with what I said.
Our writers group has like a group me, but that's more kind of like stream of consciousness chatting, shit talking. But we have a really organized Google Drive and like a Google Sheet that has calendar deadlines. So we make sure you can see who's on the calendar that month, because the goal is that like everyone's bringing something once a month, at least once a month. So, you know, for people who don't want to be on social, like we just use those other platforms to keep up to date with each other.
Shamira, any apps that you use?
Discord is one of my favorites.
Discord's a good one.
Yeah.
Bobo recommends Trello. Trello is good, especially for like project management if you want, because it's basically like a series of columns that you label the columns and you move little like post-it notes throughout. So you can use it for non-product management as well, but Trello is definitely a good one if you are kind of a visual learner and kind of see the progress of different things. And then Richard recommends Podio. We used to use Podio at Seed&Spark for customer support. So I had some kind of flashback to that I didn't love, but fair enough if it works for you. But yeah, social media is definitely too distracting, Stephanie. I think we can all agree on that. It's a tough way to remain, accountable without completely losing track of time. Okay. So other things that we thought might be helpful to remind you of for accountability is to schedule regular self check-ins for yourself every 3 months, perhaps. I like to do it every 6 months because I'm a very busy person. But best practices is probably like once a quarter, once a season, check in with yourself, go through each of the goals that you've set for yourself. Do you still care about this goal? Do you still want to see it through? And it's okay if the answer is no. I definitely have felt worse about myself for reasons of failing a goal when, if I was really honest with myself, it turns out I didn't want to go for that goal anyways. I just thought I had to. Like for 4 or 5 years in a row, I had this goal of like revitalizing my YouTube channel and like blogging more and all this stuff that I used to do when I was a high schooler and college student. But then I like realized I don't want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to make a lot of YouTube videos. That's not the thing I want to do. So instead of like punishing myself for not succeeding at the goal of revitalizing my YouTube channel, I needed to be honest about the fact that I did not want to make YouTube videos. So why is it a goal of mine? That's okay to stop doing a goal that doesn't matter to you. You could also maybe find a way to make it like an event when you check in with yourself. Make it a fun thing to do rather than oh, I have to reflect on my failures now, dress up, maybe get comfy, put on your footy pajamas and all that fun stuff that you got for Christmas probably. Make your favorite food or a snack, drink your favorite drink, listen to your favorite music, set some mood lighting, like really put yourself in a position of like, this is me time, where I'm just going to sit here and think about things I want to do and things that I've already done. And also something that has definitely come up a bunch in the chat and throughout this conversation is find somebody else to do it with, whether you have exactly the same goal you're both going for, or whether you just like each other and want to stay in touch. Find a friend or coworker and share your progress, discuss your challenges and reprioritize as it makes sense. Maybe once a month, have a virtual coffee or, physical one if you're able to stay safe to do that, and just check in with each other. Hey, what have you been up to this month? What are you working on next month? Just as a way to both have some social time, but also keep yourselves on track and have a structure to discuss. Megan, I saw you nodding a lot. Are some of these check-in ideas things that you think you're going to be doing?
As you were talking, I was scheduling quarterly check-ins on my Google Calendar because that's something I forgot to do last year. My writers group does I think a 6-month check-in, but other than that, I was like, what were my goals? And my goals did change because certain other things came up and other things had to slide. So I really want to be better about that where yeah, life changes. There's going to be certain different priorities at different times. And I want to make sure I'm still focused towards the things that are, most timely and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think it's important to revisit as often as you can and not feel bad when you have to be like, that's not going to happen anymore. I can't, produce a web series the same month as my wedding, which I really want to, but I will probably collapse on myself. But yeah, I think there's some comments in the chat about Sundance Collab has a free writers group Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, which I know is helpful. I think Writer Duet used to do one too. I don't know if they're still doing that, but there are a lot of free opportunities for you to everyone's thinking about accountability. As I think as creatives too, we have all these deadlines. There's all these, career changes and career goals we have going into the new year, and we can't get in touch in person as much anymore. So take advantage of the free virtual opportunities to still make sure you're sticking to your goals, especially if it's something get some pages done once a week, join one of those writers meetups.
Yeah, also Film Shop. I think you have to apply for Film Shop, but Film Shop is one of our partners. We love them. They've got chapters all over the country at this point. And they're really great for accountability in groups and working towards a project. Also, apparently the WGA Foundation has writing sprints. And some writers on Twitter will do, I know Jane Espenson used to do this a lot. I don't follow her anymore, but I'm sure she still does it, where she'll sort of arbitrarily be like, hey, for the next hour, it's writing sprint time. I'm going to log off and just go write. I invite you to join me. And so that can also be a fun way of doing it. And then you feel like you're writing with Jane Espenson, which isn't that a goal for everyone? Okay, cool. Well, I think that's close to the last slide. Yes, it's close to the last slide. So this is just a reminder that, hey, we're all here as a community right now. Are there people in the chat that want to be accountable to other people in the chat? Perhaps exchange some social media info and follow each other, and take away the thing that we probably would have gotten to take away easier if we were in person again, which, boy, I hope that's a thing this year. Man, I miss being in the same space as people and just chatting people up after an event. So yeah, that's it for us. Any questions or final goals to share from what you've come up in this workshop, stuff you came up with before? Any final thoughts from anyone in the chat or on the screen? I'm going to go ahead and make it just us again. It looks like we've got some folks sharing their contact information in the chat. Wonderful, wonderful. I hope you make great friends out of that. Some of my best friends I met in the YouTube comments section. Not a joke, for realsies. But yeah, any final thoughts from Megan or Shamira that y'all want to share having done this?
I have a couple final thoughts. I think
Sure.
overall, I guess like being, I guess, kind to ourselves as where we can, and just being mindful that even though if don't achieve the goal at the end of the year, but you still try, that's all that really matters. Cause I feel like sometimes when, oh, I didn't do it, I'm like, I get so hard on myself that I didn't necessarily do it, but not acknowledging the journey that took me to even get to that one milestone is really important. And also for accountability is finding someone who will give you constructive feedback, being really honest with you. As though sometimes when we have friends and family members like, oh, they want to give us tell us what we want to hear versus what we need to hear. And it's really having this conversation with those partners and buddies to really help each other out in any way we can.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Shamira, you're inside my head because I was like, I realized that last year Kim did this too. It's like anytime someone from the Light Leaks comes on, it's like such positive and inspiring feedback. Because Bree and I were like super self-deprecating last year, and Kim was like, "You guys, be nicer to yourselves." And so that is like such a good reminder, especially as you set goals, because goals are things you haven't achieved yet. And so you feel like this pressure to be like, I'm not good enough. I haven't done this yet. I didn't do it in this amount of time. I'm not as accomplished XYZ. And, honestly, it's like be kinder to ourselves, be kinder to each other. We're in year 3 of a pandemic. Surviving is enough. Anything else is a bonus. And yeah, so I'm going to take that with me just to be kinder and not be so hard on myself when I don't reach a goal or when I have to shift plans entirely. That's super important.
Yeah, I'm going to be asking myself more, to what end? Because I truly so long have just been doing things for the sake of doing them, to be busy, to seem impressive. But like, to what end? I have already accomplished so many things. Why am I accomplishing this thing? If I don't have a good answer for that, I'm going to stop worrying about it and go read my book or fuss over my arrow garden or something like that. So I have this comment up. Everyone go check the comments because we have a survey that we'd love for you to take. It's super, super quick. It will help us at Seed&Spark program more events like this that you seem to all be really enjoying. So if you enjoyed this, let us know and tell us what else we can be doing for the rest of 2022 to make your year better and to make our year easier for not having to come up with our own programming. So definitely let us know how things are going. We really appreciate your thoughts and time. So any final questions from the audience, things that we want to talk about? Looks like mostly thank yous, but I don't want to log off until we address everyone in case there's any final thoughts or things that we want to share. How about we do some plugs? So Shamira, where can we find you and the Light Leaks online?
So the Light Leaks is on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We have a great Facebook group that anyone should join, and it will be, if you search the Light Leaks, and on Instagram is the underscore Light Leaks. And for me, I'm on Twitter as Notorious Mira, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. So yeah.
Very, very cool. Oh, and hey, shout out to my former student Rexy, who is one of my grad students last semester. I'm glad you're here, Rexy. I hope you're doing well. Megan, where can we find you and Seed&Spark?
Yes, so you can find me at Megan R. Ross, MEGHAN, everywhere. Unfortunately, I'm extremely online. And I know Danny's going to drop in the chat. We've already dropped the creator survey. We'll have upcoming workshop series. Our next workshops will be in February. We're revisiting some topics that you may have caught at the end of last year, you may have missed. So we've got distribution down low for shorts and web series on February 4th. And then our classic crowdfunding to build independence a few days after that. So you can keep up with all of the workshops that we do and events like this. If you follow us on seedandspark.com/events or follow us at Seed&Spark everywhere else. And yeah, we're excited to continue supporting creators, even if it has to be virtually till the end of time. Who knows how long? But that's why the survey's there, because we want to figure out what are ways we could help you in different areas of support. Because we don't want to be just doing the same thing over and over if it's not useful to you. So definitely voice your opinion, follow us, hit us up. Yeah, and thank you again for the Light Leaks, for always being such a positive light in our lives in a very challenging industry. But this has been wonderful again. And as far as I know, I haven't gotten any insurrection slacks or texts.
No, I
So
know.
think
Last year we did. We did get a couple slacks about how I think Sundance got canceled. Yeah, in-person Sundance is canceled. Breaking news, everybody. In-person Sundance is canceled, which it was going to have to be.
Yeah.
You know,
but
it is what it is.
You can still watch virtual. I'm going to be watching some films virtual, and I've never attended Sundance in person, and it is a cool way to feel like you're at the festival but on your couch. It's nice, and get to support a lot of wonderful filmmakers that way. They don't pay me to say that.
Maybe next year there will be a metaverse Sundance that we can all do in our goofy VR goggles, and we have to pay for the NFT to something.
No.
You didn't want me to curse this event at the very end, Megan? That's not the vibe we want to go out on?
No. My goal is to not know more about NFTs this year.
Oh no, yeah, I don't think that's going to work out. I think you're setting yourself up for failure there. I don't know if that's attainable, Megan. Okay, I think we're gonna end this broadcast now, everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us. Happy New Year. We can't wait to see all that you create and all that you don't create, so that you have more time for personal, mental, and physical health. Have a lovely rest of your year, and we hope to see you in person or virtually very, very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.